You're listening to Hey Pal, What's New with John, Alex, and Greg. Hey Pal, What's New is a GBR production. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and all other social media platforms. Hey Pal, What's New can be found on Spotify, Twitch, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google, Podbean, Pandora, and all your other favorite podcast locations. Warning, Hey Pal, What's New contains explicit content. John, Alex, and Greg are a pair of vulgar Gen Xers. If you are easily offended, please stop listening and go download a nice tame podcast like the Goop Podcast. You have been warned.
You better have nice attire, because you got clothes in the dryer. My favorite cable show is The Wire, because you got clothes in the dryer. Yeah.
All right, let's fuck this pig.
Yeah, let's do it.
Checked out this new movie that was on the HBO Max Prime. Have you ever seen that brand new movie, Goodfellas?
Fuck, I offered you a chance when we could have done something, and you blew it! You blew it!
Ladies and gentlemen, Hey Pal, What's New presents Late to the Party.
Yes! Hey, everybody! It's us. It's Hey Pal, What's New?
It's a special edition of Hey Pal, What's New.
That's right. Get Arnold, get Dudley, get Gordon Jump, take your shirts off, go into the bike store. It's a very special, deep episode of Hey Pal, What's New?
Garbage Day!
That's right. It's Garbage Day.
That's right. My name is Greg. And over there.
Alex.
Yes. And today, we decided that... we've been talking about it. We've been teasing it the past couple of episodes that we wanted to do just like little bonus content, little bonus episodes geared towards something else. You know, when there's a week where there's not really anything, like I haven't been watching movies lately and TV is TV and music sucks. What better thing to do? We always talk about, and I'm sure my boy here has always gotten into those discussions where, you know, somebody brings up a classic movie or something.
Goodfellas.
Yeah. And then somebody goes, I've never seen that movie. And then what's the immediate reaction? What? You never seen Goodfellas? Oh, my God.
I can't believe you've never watched Game of Thrones.
Oh, yeah. So we always talk about that. I mean, more me than my boy here. But I did, and this is something that we're going to start doing periodically. We might add them onto an extra week. We might just do it as a week, you know, when we need to. But we decided to come up with this special segment, kind of like our rank episodes, where this one is called Late to the Party. Now, what that means is one of us will bring up a movie, and the other one will look at them and go, you've never fucking seen that movie? That movie is amazing. You have to watch that movie. And you're like, yeah, and I've done it a bunch of times. The big running joke is I've never seen Game of Thrones. I never watched Mad Men.
It broke my heart.
I watched maybe like one season of Lost. But movie-wise, we're going to do more of like a deep dive into a movie that I've seen and is one of my all-time favorites. You know that I'm a Hari Krishna. You didn't know that I was a Hari Krishna?
Oh
Krishna,
Krishna. Oh Hari Hari. Oh Hari Rama. Oh Rama.
Merry New Year. But you know I'm a horror junkie, and there was one movie, and this guy is come onto the scene fairly recently. Has put out 2 movies, and Mr. JohnAlex here has seen one of them, and I finally broke him down, and he's going to tell me about this great new movie that he saw. So please enlighten me.
You
with this
say
movie.
that, but you know this movie isn't that old either.
No, it's not. It was a tough one to get. I think the next Late to the Party one we'll do is further down the line, I know that Avatar 2, The Shape of Water, is coming out. I've never seen Avatar, ever. And that's usually the one where people go, "What the fuck? You never saw Avatar? You guys see it in 3D?" I just blue people fucking flying on pelicans. I just fucking didn't care. But so I hear it's good. So
I did jump the gun and throw it up on the screen there. But the movie we are talking about is Midsummer.
Yeah,
I know it's written Midsommar, Sommar, but that is like the what is it? Not Icelandic, the Swedish way. Or Norwegian, wherever the fuck they were. That's the way of writing Midsummer.
That's Midsummer.
It's Midsummer.
Okay, yeah, because so many people are either Midsommar or Midsummer. It was a movie I saw a couple. Now, when did this movie come out?
2019.
Okay, so it's not that old.
No, 3 years.
Now his
it's long.
Yeah,
2.5 hours, and it didn't seem like 2.5 hours to me.
No, see, I caught on to a couple years ago. I think maybe his movie before this, Hereditary, I think,
which is my next one to watch.
Yeah, that one came out, I think, 2017, I want to say. And it was one of those movies where people were saying in the horror community, like, this is the next Exorcist. Like, this is going to scare the piss out of you. It's fucking creepy. And granted, it's definitely the director and writer of
Hereditary was 2018.
Oh, 18, yeah. So he cranked
he
them
has
out.
Coming out this year, Disappointment Boulevard.
Ooh, and when's that supposed to come out?
It says 2022.
Oh.
Don't give me a date. Don't get expected 2022.
Yeah, the director's name is Ari Aster. The two movies that I've seen, both, we're going to take a little deep dive. We're going to do a triple Lindy into Midsummer, just to get John's take on it. And, you know, if it's a movie that you like horror, you like trippy shit, definitely check this out.
Yeah, it took a turn. I started watching this going like, oh, this is going to be a fun little coming of age, you know, dealing with tragedy. Because, you know, for those of you who haven't seen this movie, yeah, fucking spoilers on a 3-year-old movie.
Yeah, we're gonna spoil the shit out of these movies.
It starts off with like her trying to get in touch with her sister, who sent her this weird email, and she's freaking out. And her sister's bipolar.
Yep.
And turns out the sister basically hooked the 2 fucking cars in the garage up to the tailpipe, a hose.
Yep.
Literally puts one on her own face as a gas mask, and then one in the room of her parents, and they all fucking die.
Yeah.
So now she's basically an orphan. She's like distraught. She's also a very fucking codependent, needy bitch.
Yes. It's quite the comedy.
I don't mean to be derogatory utilizing the B word, because I get a lot of shit for that. I don't mean it that way. It's just she's very fucking needy.
Yeah. Well, she's been through a lot of trauma, so, you know.
Well, even before that, though, because her boyfriend's talking about how, like, she's just like, you know, she was going to break up with her boyfriend, and he was going to break up with her, but then she like has this tragedy about her sister, and now he's fucking stuck.
Yeah. Oh, that's the worst.
And he's got this trip scheduled to go with one of the guys who's a exchange student.
Yes.
From this village in, I want to say, Sweden.
Yeah, it's kind of that like Norwegian kind of Sweden type area. I don't even know if they get really. I mean, they have the town is what they say, but they don't. I don't know if they really discuss whether it's a specific, you know, like whether it's in Sweden or Norwegian or Norway or whatever.
Fabled Swedish Midsummer Festival.
Okay,
so they're visiting no, it's this like hidden community. It's like I'm gonna say that I'm gonna drop it. Call your mom. You're in a cult. Call your dad. You're in a cult. It's like a cult. So I'm watching. I'm like, oh, she's going, and like they get there, and they fucking drop. They're doing mushrooms.
Oh, that's what it is. Yeah, they get there, and the exchange student, he's very like, oh, you just can't wait to see this. We live differently than everybody, and it's gonna be fun. And there's 2 of. Well, actually, it starts as one of the characters is writing like his thesis, college thesis on this culture.
Right.
So he's, you know, writing notes, taking pictures, even though he shouldn't. And then there's the main character, the woman, her boyfriend,
played by Florence Pugh.
Everybody.
Hubba hubba.
The Pugh. Yeah, her character.
I was a little shocked at Will Poulter. Because he's been in a lot of shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, the boyfriend, Jack Rayner, his Christian, boyfriend Christian. That actor, Jack Rayner, is like more of it seems like he's more of a voice actor than anything else. I tried to look up what he's done, and it's a lot of like, let's go with, like, indie type films. I want to say like this. I considered this more of an indie film.
Yeah, I mean it's not like a blockbuster. I don't know if it's something where both these movies like made a ton of money, but they're Ari Aster and these two movies. The one we're talking, Midsummer, is highly regarded. As like master. He's like the new face of horror. Because we've.
I didn't know this was going to be a horror movie going into it.
Yeah, I just said watch Midsummer. I didn't give him any explanation of what it was. And his movies are definitely movies that you want to go in cold. Yeah. You want like the basic premise of it, but you really don't want to know.
Well, like looking at Hereditary, I'm like, oh, it's this fucking family, grandma dies. You got this freaky. And what is with him with the freaky looking kids?
He loves his freaky looking kids.
He's got the one kid in Midsummer that's deformed.
Yeah.
And you find out, well, that's a baby of incest.
Yeah, inbred baby.
Because they're inbred baby. They're a very close community that, like, they don't really have much of an option other than inbreeding.
Yep.
And you get that wackadoodle every time. Just that total, like, classic, like, this is your stereotypical what happens when family members have sex.
Yeah.
You get this, what they would deem, you get this monstrosity that comes out. And I don't mean to be disparaging. I'm just, it's that stereotypical, this is what you get when you have sex with your relatives.
You don't mix the fluids of the blood, you hear that freaking Flowers in the Attic? Yeah. My new obsession. Yeah, so, and another thing that's great about this movie, too, is that it's all, like, very bright daylight.
Yes.
Now, you don't see thrillers. It's always darkly, like, even Hereditary is very dark lit, when you get to that one. This is, like, bright. It's one of those things that reminded me of one of my other favorite horror movies, The Devil's Rejects.
Yes.
Where that whole movie is in broad daylight, and it's unsettling.
Yeah.
So let's go into Florence Pugh, her family dies. She's distraught. Now the boyfriend.
He kind of I don't know if he invited her or she invited herself, but he invites her thinking like, well, she's not gonna fucking come.
Yeah, that old gag.
And then she comes.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where she is, and it's a good subject to the fact that, like, when somebody goes through that much trauma, and like you said, he was just about to break up with her because she was a pain in the ass. She has a lot of anxiety, and even before this happened,
they don't have sex.
Yeah, they're just they're definitely on the outs. And when something traumatic like that happens, when a family member dies and they're distraught, you're like, fuck, now I got another at least 3 to 6 months with this
I can't be the guy who dumped his girlfriend at her dad's funeral.
Yeah, exactly.
Again.
And then when they get to the part where they're doing this trip, and it's supposed to be a guy's trip, and they're going to do their thesis, and it's going to be awesome, and then she tags along. She's like, yeah, I think I'll go. And they're like, not only is she a bummer, but she's one of those, we've all been in relationships in the past where you have the one that just clings.
Yep.
Me
have to be with you all the time.
Yeah, me being a musician, I was in plenty of relationships in the past, when I was in my 20s and 30s, when I was playing gigs, and they had to go to every gig. They had to be, and when you take some, not to discount, people's relationships and stuff like that, but, like, you get in a situation where, when I used to play gigs, and I'd have a girlfriend that would go to every gig, it was kind of like, now I have to worry about, is she all right? And everything's focused on her, and I can't focus on what I'm doing because I'm too focused on her. But anyway, I digress. So they head off to this lovely town.
And again, they've got this, like, lovely town that's like this community. And I'm thinking, like, in my head, I'm going, all right, like, they're going to be this hippy-dippy community, and something's going to happen, and she's going to be like, she falls in love with this guy and stays with him. And the boyfriend, like, is like, who was going to stay and thinks he's going to, like, have this great experience, is like, fuck you, I'm leaving. I thought it was going to be something like that.
Yeah.
And it so wasn't.
No. So, like, immediately when they get there, now, who's the character that actually lives there in the cult? We're going to have to pull up their names because I'm horrible at names. Yeah. So he gets there, and...
Pele?
Pele or...
Pele.
Pele, yeah.
Pelle.
Okay, good. Thank you. I can even see that now, so this is good. So... They get there, and, you know, they're like, oh, it's beautiful. It's, like, out in the countryside, and everybody's dressed. It's a very cultish, but almost kind of Amish. Like, everything's white,
but it's like
green.
It's
you know?
what you would think about, like, a Dutch community where they wear, like, the white with the patterns and clogs, and it very much looks like that.
I was going to say, the only thing they're missing is wooden shoes. Yeah. So... They get there, and they're like, oh, my God, this place is beautiful, and everybody's so nice. They're hugging everything. They sit down for big dinners. And then they decide, well, let's do some mushrooms. Now, you mentioned
they didn't even sit down for the mushrooms. It was like when they got there and they meet them in the field and they pull over, it's like, this is my brother, Ulf.
Ulf.
Ulf. This is my brother. And they're about to do it, and she's like, no, I'm not in a headspace. And then the boyfriend's like, yeah, I'm going to hold off and wait to do it with her. And they're like, oh, well, then we're all going to be having different trips. And it's like, she's like, no, I'm fine. I'll do it.
Yeah.
And they all do mushrooms.
Now, you said to
me...
And
I love that the one guy, what is it, Mark.
Yeah.
And that's the guy who you see, like, in, like, the movies. He's the red-haired, like, got the weird eyebrows, played by Will Poulter.
Yeah.
I wish I could remember what else he was in. But, like... He's the one who's like, God damn it, we got to do this. What the hell, blah, 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 blah. And then all of a sudden...
Yeah, he's like a dude, bro. Most of the guys
he's having the bad trip.
Yeah. Most of the guys in this movie are kind of dude bro-ish. You know, there's the one guy, I believe his name is...
Really quick. Will Poulter is... You might know him from... he was in We're the Millers.
Oh, okay.
If you saw that.
Yeah.
He was also in Maze Runner.
Yes.
And the Chronicles of Narnia.
And the Lion, the Witch, and My Balls.
I didn't see this, but in the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, he plays Adam Warlock.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I didn't know that. So
yeah.
I was today years old when I learned that one.
Oh, boy. Yeah, so so they get there and they decide to do mushrooms. Now, me personally, I've never done mushrooms.
I've tripped a shit ton.
Yeah, and you said college. It was very, very...
Oh, very accurate to tripping balls.
Yeah, and it was interesting because, you know, I've never... Thank God, I mean, I have my own problems with drugs and alcohol, but, like, I've never gotten into hallucinogenics.
Because I like them a little too much.
Yeah, but you said it was very depictive of, like, how that feeling is, where everything's pulsing and everything feels like it's breathing and brighter. You know, so they're already in this weird situation, right? But they made the best of it. They go into it's like a barracks almost like, but it's beautiful. Everything is like
everybody. They have like the 4 stages of life.
Yep,
and it's like you're young. It's like 0 to was it like 30 years old? It was literally some weird number like that you're considered like young.
Yeah,
and then from like 30 to 50 something, you are considered like the next stage,
and the elder statesman kind of thing,
right? And then up to they cut it off at like what was it 72, and they're like, what happens after that? And they're like,
yeah,
and you think he's joking, and they get to the community and they're like having this big dinner and they have this whole ceremony where the oldest people are there and they stand up and everybody has to wait for them to sit and then to start eating. And that one Mark guy is like, you can tell he drove me nuts. He's a fucking dude, bro, like you said.
Yeah.
Where like everybody else is sitting there quietly waiting. He's like picking up his drink and drinking it. He's like that kid wait, we haven't said grace yet. What are you doing?
Yeah. He's got he's no filter kind of guy. To the point, I think it was even before the dinner where he pisses on like a sacred
That was later.
Oh,
that was way at the
okay,
end.
We'll get to that. So yeah, so they're getting used to the community and stuff, and everybody in there like that. It's interesting because there's nobody. Me personally, when I watched it, and I've watched it a few times because I fucking love it. It's you don't root for any of these fucking kids.
No.
They're all fucking like pretentious, fucking ass, like just. You know, you kind of...
Even Florence Pugh's character, because she's so needy, wanty, whiny, like, annoyed the shit
and
out
they're
of
also,
me.
and who's the one guy, he goes in, and they distinctly, and it's one of those tropes in horror where it's just like, whatever you do, don't touch the red button.
Yeah.
They all touch the fucking red button.
Yeah.
Where it's like, you got to respect the community and their tribe and stuff like that.
And their culture and their way of...
You know, they showed this sacred book, and I think his name is Will, not Will.
The one who's doing his...
Yeah, the
Simon.
one who's... Yeah, Simon.
Josh.
Josh. He's doing his thesis on this.
Played by William Jackson Harper.
Yeah.
Who, I've seen him in a lot of stuff, but I think the thing he's most memorable for me... Not that memorable.
Yeah,
was it the show Love Life?
I don't know. I don't know. But his character...
The Good Place. That's where I know him. He was the one black guy on The Good Place.
Yeah.
Who played the guy who was like very organized and everything. I don't know if you've ever watched The Good Place.
I've seen some of it, yeah.
So he would that's where I knew him from, was The Good Place.
So like he goes into like this sacred thing and there's this book and he starts fucking taking pictures of it and they're like, yo, dude, what the fuck?
He asks, like, can I take a picture? And they're like, no, you cannot share our secrets with anyone.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, and you realize like the book, bringing it back around, the incest kid is just paint on a paper and they interpret the mess of finger painting on the pages as their scripture, and they keep writing these books as time goes on. And they're like, no, you can't take pictures. Like, no, I'm sorry. Yeah, I understand. And then he comes back later at night, like you said, and goes in there and goes, fuck you, where's the book? I'm taking pictures. And he's like, and then someone walks in.
It's just
that. And that's where the turn happened for me. I think there was someone before him who went off and never came back, and I didn't even think about it.
Well, they did get to that.
The couple.
Yeah.
So back to the dinner.
Yeah.
That old couple, they go to this, like, looks like a quarry, and they get carried on a
one of those like Cleopatra pedestal things. Now they're like the hosts of this party.
Yes.
Like they're like the guests, not the guests of honor, but like
they're the guests of honor.
Yeah, they're the guests of honor, and everybody's making a big deal about this elder couple, and they're like, oh, that's so nice. They're like celebrating being older and being an elder statesman, blah 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 blah. So anyway, like you said, they go to this quarry.
They go up to the top, and the woman's like, she does this thing, and she moves up to the, and then she just fucking face plants off and hits the big rock at the bottom, and it's like a perfect like splat.
Yeah,
and it was her head. Yeah, that like just explodes like a pumpkin, and the two people freak the fuck out.
Yeah,
and that's the first couple to disappear because like they're like, fuck this, we're out of here. And then the guy goes up and he misses the fucking rock.
Oh yeah,
and breaks his legs and stuff, and now he's still alive. And they're like, what the fuck is going on here? And they're yelling, and the whole community is like, the guy's like, oh, and they're all going, oh.
Yeah, they're imitating it.
They're imitating the emotion, which I thought was really cool that they took that angle. Like, when there's an emotion that someone's displaying, everybody in the community starts kind of like mimicking that emotion to kind of like spread that emotion. There's one scene where the girl was really upset, and the other girl takes her into that room and is like, it was after she became the May Queen, and she's like, breathe, and she's realized her boyfriend is off fucking someone.
Yeah. We're kind of jumping all over the place.
She's like, breathe, and the two of them start, and then other girls are there, and they all start doing like the crying, hyperventilating, and she's like, all of a sudden she starts calming down.
Yeah, it's like scream therapy kind of thing.
So after that, those two disappeared. Now the guy is laying there still alive, and they come over with a fucking mallet and just start whacking his whole family comes over and hits him in the head with the mallet.
And that's the beauty of Ari Aster in his movies, is that it's not a gore fest. It's not carnage candy. But the things he does, gore-wise and violence-wise, is very real and very like, there's no shit. Like music of like, did it, you know, it's like thud, thud, and you're like, fuck, like it's like you're watching it for real, and it's just really freaky, which I love it. It's great.
So that one couple that came with another person, come with this core group.
They were a different group. Yeah,
they came with another guy. They're like, fuck this, and then she's running around going like, where is he? And like, oh, there wasn't room in the truck. We took him separately. Yeah, but they're gonna come back for you. Don't worry about it. And I didn't even think anything there. I was like, this is some crazy bullshit at that point. And it wasn't until he was reading the book and the person comes in and fucking clocks him in the head.
Yeah.
And the person's wearing someone else's face.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it was their other friend who was there who disappeared too.
Yeah. It's just, and it just slow, it's a slow burn.
Yeah.
It's one of those where it's like, little shit starts happening. You can see that these people are annoying. Like now, Christian decides, like he's just a fucking dude, bro, too. And he's just like Jim or whatever his name is. And he doesn't know what to do for his thesis. And his friend, who's Josh, who's doing the thesis,
right,
is saying, like, you got to get your ass together. Like, this is due. And he decides
he's going to do it on that community.
the same thing. Like, just, and the other guy's just like, what the fuck, man? Like, you're just, doing on the same thing. What's the big deal, you know? And it's just, you're just like, oh, I'm just
Spoiler, in the end, it didn't fucking matter.
No. It's just, because you're just like, what a fucking dick. And he's just being a dick to his girlfriend, even though she is whiny, but you kind of feel for him because he's like, she's just like an emotional wreck. And sometimes when, I know it sounds horrible, but like when you have somebody that you care about or love, when they have a loved one, and it's, you're kind of removed from it, and you could see that they're going through so much shit, and you're just helpless. Like I remember with my, I don't want to get fucking sad here, but like my ex-wife's father died suddenly. We were in hospice, and there's just no way to console the person.
No.
You just kind of have to be there.
I will tell you, I just don't know what to say in those moments to people. I'm so sorry for your loss.
No, you just kind of, I learned from experience that you just have to be there. You just have to kind of be there. If they want, like, you can go get me a sandwich or fucking,
I'm really thirsty. I need a drink.
Yeah, stuff like that. You can't be like the constant, like, it's going to be all right, everything's good, everything's happening for a reason, blah, blah, but you just have to be there. You just have to be there. This guy is never there at all. He's just he's annoyed. And in deep, sometimes you get frustrated and you go, I can't help this person.
He's the dude, bro, that's like, he's mad that her family killed themselves because now he can't get his dick sucked.
Yeah, and he's just like, you're ruining my fucking trip with my boys, like, shut the fuck up. So anyway, it starts, I'm talking all about this shit. You should probably take the lead of it.
So then that one guy who's taking the pictures of the book is clocking the head, and I go, oh, this is not the movie I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be some, like I said, she realizes she needs to lead a different life, and she finds herself in a tale of discovery, because I went into this with, like you said, zero expectations of what it was.
Yeah.
And if you look at the cover, it's like, for those of you at home watching, if you look at the cover of this, it's her with this crown of flowers, sort of crying there, and I'm like, oh, it's one of these hippy dippy lovey feely. In no way, shape, or form does it. I mean, like Hereditary. You look at the poster and stuff, you're like, okay, this is a fucking horror movie.
Yeah.
This, I'm like, oh, it's not a horror movie. This is just
And that's the beauty of this movie, is that it's so misleading and so different from the typical tropes of horror that you're like, and I don't even know if you would call it a horror movie. I mean, I guess you would, but it's more than that. It's an emotional fuck in your head.
Boy, is it.
So they start going, like you said, things start to go wrong. The one guy pisses on, like, the sacred tree.
So those two people who died, they cremate them, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, they cremate them, and they spread their ashes on this tree. Mm-hmm. And then later on, that guy who was like, this is fucking bullshit, I'm going to go take a nap, misses the people jumping off the cliff.
Oh, yeah.
He's like, dude, fucking something interesting happens and you let me sleep? They're in this field, and he goes, he goes over to the tree where they just put the ash and starts pissing, and they start losing their fucking minds.
Oh, as you would,
They're like, that's our ancestor tree, that's where the remains of all of our ancestors goes, and he's like, what the fuck, like, it's just a fucking tree, it's a dead tree, and he's like trying to explain why he pissed on the tree.
Yeah, and meanwhile, you're in a fucking field, a huge field. You had to go for the fucking tree? Like, it just go anywhere.
And then he disappears.
Yes.
And they're like, come with us, and he's like, okay, and then you never see him. But then the Christian guy at one point is like tripping balls because they give him this drink.
Yep.
And he goes into this shed, and there's the fucking guy who they're like, oh no, he went to town already, we took him to the thing, he's gonna meet you there.
Yeah.
Still alive, strung up, and you know he's still alive because they cut him open from the back and pulled his lungs through.
Oof, yeah.
There's a name for it. I can't remember what it's called.
Yeah.
Where they cut you open and pull your lungs through your back, and you see his lungs like pulling air in and going out.
Yeah.
And they have like this zombie dust that they like in your face, and they blow it in his face. He turns around, there's people, and then the guy goes and blows it in his face. He's like,
yeah.
And then they just close his eyes.
It's like he's flying like an angel kind of thing in this like shed, and his fucking lungs are still breathing.
It's a Viking thing. I think they did that in the show Ragnarok.
Oh,
Ragnarok
is something different.
Well, it's all based on the same thing, but they did something like that in Ragnar. The Vikings show.
Yeah, Vikings.
Sorry, in Vikings, they did something like that in that, where they did that to someone. I don't know.
Yeah, and then after that, it just starts getting fucking weirder and weirder. You find that, and then they give Christian. They have one of their big ceremonies with the drinks. And did you catch that he drinks like the menstrual cycle?
No, it's called a blood eagle.
Yeah.
So I saw when he was walking across, there's that tale of the woman who's like in love with the guy, so she does the rune, and then she cuts her pubes and puts them in a pie.
Yep.
And then he eats it and then falls in love with her.
Yeah.
And then he's eating the fucking pie. He's like, I think I just ate a pube.
Yeah. It's just
that thing is called a blood eagle.
Yeah, and it's supposed to hypnotize him into that, and then they drag him. For some reason, they pull Christian as like the fucking the breeder or whatever.
Yeah. Well, they need fresh blood to keep the inbreeding out. So the sister of their friend, like, falls in love with him, puts that thing under his bed, all creepy, like, I want him. He's going to be mine. And they drug him so that he'll fuck her. And now him having sex with her was like, he goes into this room and she's laying in this thing of flowers, like with her, and then she spreads her legs, but you don't see it's from her legs, and then he comes over and he's like between her legs, and there's all these women standing around like chanting, and as she's like starting to moan, they start to moan.
It was and
then the woman gets down and holds her hand, and he's like looking at her, and she's like, no, look at her, and like there's this whole thing, and then the old lady who's behind him as he's thrusting, like pushing his ass,
like let's help you along there a little bit, pal.
Can you finish this up? We got things to do.
Yeah. And the girlfriend like sees it.
She hears it. She doesn't see it. And the fact, I think she picked up on it because like, no, you don't want to go in there. There's nothing in there for you. And she's like, oh my God, that's my boyfriend having sex with someone.
Yeah.
And that's the whole crying thing where they start like helping her. But
yeah.
So then they dust him. He runs out of there and goes, and that thing gets dusted.
Mm-hmm.
And then next thing you know, she's the May Queen because she won the dance contest.
Yes, they have this whole big dance like around the Mayflower kind of thing.
But this is where everything starts to come to her because they have that ceremony where they talk about the 9. Was it 9? The 9 people who gave their lives or whatever.
Yeah.
And it has to be like outsiders and people from the village that have to do it, and then they put him in that big house and set it on fire. But before they do it, they give her the choice of who the last person's going to be.
Yeah.
Either a willing volunteer from the family, from the village. And they do a fucking little ball lottery thing, and it's like, and it's like, okay, him or your boyfriend.
Yeah.
And next thing you see, they put they dissecting the bear, which is funny because in the beginning they're walking across and there's a bear in a cage. Like, are we just gonna ignore the bear?
Yeah, and
they say that like, are we not gonna say anything about the bear, guys?
Yeah,
like, it's just a bear. Keep going.
Yeah.
And they gut the bear and put him into the fucking bear.
Yes, and he's zombified, so he's alive. He sees everything go, but he can't move, and he's in this fucking bear costume.
Yep.
And there's other people in the...
Right, there's 2 people who had volunteered to be the sacrifices, if you will. I guess they only do this like once every 90 years or some shit like that.
Yeah, it was a big deal that they went there, and that's the reason they
Some
went.
of the other stuff, like the people jumping off the cliff, is like when you reach 72, that's what you do.
Yeah.
Because you can't contribute to the society anymore, so you willingly give up as a sacrifice. But they save them for like, hey, like they cut off their faces, and that was the face. They cut off their faces to put on these like dolls that they're gonna burn in sacrifice. And the 2 people like, thank you for your sacrifice. Some of the whatever, so that you don't feel. And they start catching on fire, and next thing you know, the guy's fucking screaming. He's like, wait, I thought I wasn't gonna feel shit.
Yeah.
Like, ah! They're all screaming.
And the Christian can't say anything because he's fucking zombified, but he's burning to a crisp. And then at the end, they just kind of fucking... Florence Pugh's got all these flowers around her.
Yeah,
she's like the May Queen or the Flower Queen. And it just kind of ends like you don't know what happens to her.
Nope.
She's just standing there with all the flowers, and everybody's just kind of there. So it's like I don't think she's coming back. Excuse me. Yeah.
You think she becomes part of the community?
I mean, I guess she has to. I mean, it's not something where, and I really don't see these movies as being like franchises or sequels or something like that. Like,
when do we find out what happened? Because that's not the point. What happens after that's not the point.
No, and you'll see when you watch Hereditary, it's very similar in that aspect where it ends and you're like, okay, it's not like oh my god, that's it. It just kind of ends and you're like, well, what the fuck's gonna happen to him? Well, okay, it's fine.
What happens to that character is not the point of this.
And it doesn't bum you out. It's not like one of those like what the fuck. Like Midsummer was the same way where it was just like,
yeah, I hate those movies that you get to the end, you're like, what? That's it?
Yeah,
what the fuck?
Yeah. So it's just like, okay, she's the Flower Queen, and that's it, you know. And she's pretty much, and essentially, she really has nothing to go back to.
No.
I mean, her family's dead.
Her family's dead. Her boyfriend's now dead.
Yeah,
she's got no friends.
Yep. So why not be the Flower Queen? It seems like they, near the end, when she does win the contest and she becomes the Flower Queen, like everybody daunts over her. She's like the guest of honor.
Yeah, and that's what makes me wonder because they say they do it every 90 years. But the one guy, Pele, who brings them there,
yeah,
he talks to her like, I'm an orphan too. My parents died. They burned up in a fire.
Mm.
And I'm like, wait, I thought this only happened like once every 90 years.
Yeah. Well, it could just be coincidence that they burned in a fire.
Yeah, maybe they were in the old barn and the cow kicked over the lantern. And...
Maybe they were one of the sacrifices of the other ones.
But that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
it would have been 90 years ago.
Yeah, you kind of suspend your disbelief.
It's a
little
cuckoo
bit.
movie. That's all I knew, and I'm very happy I watched it because that's the kind of shit I dig. Movies like that, movies that are like jump scare. I'll get like oh shit, like, but they don't scare me.
No,
Even Friday the 13th in them, I'm like, okay,
yeah, no. I mean, that's what's great about this movie, and I'm super excited for you to watch Hereditary, just because it's not. It's not the typical jump scare. It's not the music that's like, like all the stuff that cues you into it. It just it's like you're watching a fucking documentary. Like I don't know. I'll have to throw another horror movie at you, The Green Inferno.
Nope.
Eli Roth one. It's very similar to that. Like it's like Cannibal Holocaust.
Okay.
But it's there's no soundtrack. There's no like it's like you're watching a found. It's like a found footage.
I can't do found footage shit.
No, it's not found footage, but that's what I'm saying. It's like a found footage thing, but it's not shot that way. You know what I'm saying? Like it's pretty fucked up. We could watch the trailer after we hang up
movie.
here.
I was going on to Netflix for The Green Inferno to put it in my queue. Wait, this is not. Is this the one where the cannibals?
They're in that
they were exploring. Why'd you say Eli Roth?
Because he wrote it and directed it.
Oh, he's not in it. So yes, I have seen this movie.
Yeah, that one's pretty messed up.
Yeah, because they're like in this thing and they're in the and then they realize like they're eating their friend.
Yeah, because they went to this jungle thing for like a protest kind of thing, and then they get captured by the tribe and. Then they start eating them and stuff. But there's like Midsummer, this Green Inferno, all these movies where it's like there's no big soundtrack, there's no big score. You just hear the brutality of it, and it's like you're watching a found footage, but there's just no shaky cam and all that.
The
shit.
brutality and sound and like the sound effects of all the brutality is the soundtrack.
The sound of that woman falling off the quarry into that thing, you just hear the thud.
Or the splat every time they whack him in the head.
Yeah, it's disturbing. So, on the chub meter, on this newfound late to the party,
I give it a full chub.
Told you, fully erect. Yeah. So anybody, if you haven't had a chance to check out Midsummer, I highly recommend it. My boy here highly recommends it now, and definitely with these episodes. we want you to
Look
let
into
us
these
know.
things and let us know.
Watch the movies. Let us know what you think. Is there a movie that, surprise us? Say, like, I've never seen Citizen Kane. And if you want to be a guest on the podcast.
I've never seen Citizen Kane.
Neither have I, so it's fine.
Never seen fucking, what's that? I don't know nothing about Birth of No Babies. Gone with the Wind.
Oh, you've never seen Gone with the Wind?
Nope.
Yeah, no, that's one we've seen over. That was one of those movies where.
You know what I have seen?
What's that?
Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
Oh, toot sweet, toot sweet. So anyway, if there's movies out there that you're like that you always get called out on when you go at a party and you're like, hey, did you see this new movie I saw? Like next, unless John gets the Hereditary first, I think our next late to the party will be me watching Avatar. And giving my explanation on it. And we also want to do like other episodes like this. We're thinking about maybe even a Patreon where we'll do these late to the parties and ranks and deep dives and stuff only for your patrons. So think about that. But we're going to give you this one free because we're like fucking drug dealers and that's what we do. So
I'm just a fucking gigolo.
And everywhere I go.
Baby. First one's free.
Hamala bibala sibala babala hamala bibala sibala bop.
Ain't got no.
Yeah, hit that late to the party, and then we're gonna get the fuck out of here. So go.
Hey, look at that. This is a great party. Love your hair over there. Hey, I just checked out this new movie that was on the HBO Max Prime. Have you ever seen that brand new movie, Goodfellas?
Fuck, I offered you a chance when we could have done something, and you blew it! You blew it!
Ladies and gentlemen, Hey Pal What's New presents Late to the Party.